Ishmael Chapter 6, Sections 3, 4, and 5. What's the effect of the law of gravity? What's gravity good for? I'd say that gravity is what organizes things on a macroscopic level. It's what keeps things together, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe. Ishmael nodded. And the law we're looking for is the law that keeps the living community together. It organizes things on a biological level, just as the way as the law of gravity organizes things on the macroscopic level. Okay, I guess Ishmael could sense that I had something else on my mind because he waited for me to go on. It's hard to believe our own biologists aren't aware of this law. Lines of amused astonishment crinkled the blue-gray skin of his face. Do you imagine that Mother Culture doesn't talk to your biologists? No. Then what does she tell them? That if there is such a law, it doesn't apply to us. Of course. But that doesn't really answer your question. Your biologist would certainly not be astounded to hear that the behavior in the natural community follows certain patterns. You have to remember that when Newton articulated the law of gravity, no one was astounded. It's not a superhuman achievement to notice that unsupported objects fall toward the center of the earth. Everyone past the age of 2 knows that. Newton's achievement was not in discovering the phenomenon of gravity, it was in formulating the phenomenon as a law. Yes, I see what you mean. In the same way, nothing you discover here about life in the community of life is going to astound anyone. Certainly not naturalists or biologists or animal behaviorists. My achievement, if I succeed, will simply be in formulating it as a law. Okay, got it. Would you say that the law of gravity is about flight? I thought about that for a while and said, it isn't about flight, but it's certainly relevant to flight inasmuch as it applies to aircraft in the same way that it applies to rocks. It makes no distinction between aircraft and rocks. Yes, that's well said. The law we're looking for here is much like that with respect to civilizations. It's not about civilizations, but it applies to civilizations in the same way that it applies to flocks of birds and herds of deer. It makes no distinction between human civilizations and beehives. It applies to all species without distinction. This is one reason why the law has remained undiscovered in your culture. According to Taker mythology, man is by definition a biological exception. Out of all the millions of species, only one is an end product. The world wasn't made to produce frogs or katydids or sharks or grasshoppers. It was made to produce man. Man therefore stands alone, unique and infinitely apart from all the rest. True. Ishmael spent the next few minutes staring at a point about 20 inches in front of his nose, and I began to wonder if he'd forgotten I was there. Then he shook his head and came to. For the first time in our acquaintance, he delivered something like a mini-lecture. The gods have played 3 dirty tricks on the Takers, he began. In the first place, they didn't put the world where the Takers thought it belonged, in the center of the universe. They really hated hearing this, but they got used to it. Even if man's home was stuck off in the boondocks, they could still believe that he was a central figure in the drama of creation. The second of the God's tricks was worse. Since man was the climax of creation, the creature for whom all the rest was made, they should have had the decency to produce him in a manner suited to his dignity and importance, in a separate, special act of creation. Instead, they arranged for him to evolve from the common slime, just like the ticks and liver flukes. The Takers really hated hearing this, but they're beginning to adjust to it. Even if man evolved from the common slime, it's still his divinely appointed destiny to rule the world and perhaps even the universe itself. But the last of the God's tricks was worst of all. Though the Takers don't know it yet, the gods did not exempt man from the law that governs the lives of grubs and ticks and shrimps and rabbits and mollusks and deer and lions and jellyfish. They did not exempt him from this law any more than they exempted him from the law of gravity. And this is going to be the bitterest blow of all to the Takers. To the gods' other dirty tricks, they could adjust. To this one, no adjustment is possible. He sat there for a while, a hillside of fur and flesh, I guess letting this pronouncement sink in. Then he went on. Every law has effects, or it wouldn't be discoverable as a law. The effects of the law we're looking for are very simple. Species that live in compliance with the law live forever, environmental conditions permitting. This will, I hope, be taken as good news for mankind in general, because if mankind lives in compliance with this law, then it too will live forever, for as long as conditions permit. But of course, this isn't the law's only effect. Those species that do not live in compliance with the law become extinct. In the scale of biological time, they become extinct very rapidly. And this is going to be very bad news for the people of your culture, the worst they've ever heard. I hope, I said, that you don't think any of this is showing me where to look for this law. Ishmael thought for a moment, then took a branch from the pile at his right, held it up for me to see, then let it fall to the floor. That's the effect Newton was trying to explain. He waved his hand to the world outside. That's the effect I'm trying to explain. Looking out there, you see a world full of species that, environmental conditions permitting, are going to go on living indefinitely. Yes, that's what I assume, but why doesn't it need explaining? Ishmael selected another branch from his pile, held it up, and let it fall to the floor. Why doesn't that need explaining? Or why does that need explaining? Okay, so you're saying this phenomenon is not the result of nothing. It's the effect of a law. A law is in operation. Exactly. A law is in operation, and my task is to show you how it operates. At this point, the easiest way to show you how it operates is by analogy, with laws you already know, the law of gravity and the laws of aerodynamics. Okay.